Hello there and welcome back once again to another edition of Reach the Peak, the show where we take the cars of Forza Horizon 3 on one of the toughest challenges they can face, a tight, twisty hill climb course high up in Blizzard Mountain. As usual, we have 5 cars here for you today, and we kick things off with the 2015 BMW i8, which has 357 horsepower, 420 foot-pound torque, 3,380 pounds of weight. When equipped with the snow tyres, it is S1 Class 842 is the exact PI number. The i8, a car many people are a fan of. I'm not really one of them. I don't like this car. I can see why people like it. It's basically the idea of hybrid put into a semi-affordable fun package. It was one of the first hybrid drivers cars, because I've seen them pop up all over the place now. But you know, this was at the time where your only real hybrid drivers cars was stuff like your P1s, your LaFerraris, your 918 Spiders. But this one sort of really made the idea of hybrid seem fun to some people. A lot of people really like the way it looks. Personally, I really don't like the way it looks. It's awkward. I will admit, this design, which was designed by RacerXNFS, who is a friend of the channel, this design actually helps a lot of the i8's issues, namely the fact that it looks like a 911's coming out the back end of it. If you don't know what I'm talking about, seriously, Google the back end of an i8, Google the back end of a 911. Yeah, it's you'll never be able to look at the car the same again. It honestly looks like it is giving birth to it. But of course, this is a four-wheel drive sports car, so it should be doing pretty good up here. Let's have a quick look in to see how it drives. Well, it is pretty good, actually. It's a really solid car to drive. Obviously, usually with these four-wheel drive sports cars, they do offer a little bit more power, or if they don't offer more power, they offer a little bit less weight. 3,380 pounds isn't exactly heavy, especially when you consider the fact this is a hybrid and all the rest of it, but with only 357 horsepower, realistically coming up this hill climb course, you would want a little bit more at that weight, you know, 400, maybe even 500. But it is, you know, a good, solid car to drive. Of course, the trade-off for that, though, is the fact that it is a little bit slow through certain points. Obviously, despite being, you know, a twisty technical hill climb course, this does have some pretty decent straights where a car with a decent amount of straight line speed will do well, and the i8 does sort of struggle when it comes to the straights. But overall, a very solid car indeed. Next up, we have, well, a car which is basically made for this type of course. It is the 2016 Jeep Trailcat, 707 horsepower, 650 foot-pound torque, 4,600 pounds of weight. This is the most powerful car here today, the torquiest car here today, and the heaviest car here today. It comes with the snow tyres as standard, meaning it is S1 Class 817 PI. The Trialcat, for those of you who don't know, is basically a trail-rated Jeep Wrangler with the engine from a Dodge Hellcat, which is a very powerful supercharged unit. You know, you find it in Chargers, Challengers, SRTs, and maybe that Viper that they're on about building. They're on about bringing the Viper back with a Hellcat engine. The less said about that, the better, but nevertheless, it's here in this Jeep, and of course you can get it in other Jeeps. The Grand Cherokee Trackhawk is another one. This is the first time I've actually driven this car in Forza. It came in with the Hot Wheels DLC, I believe, and yeah, it was pretty much as I expected it to be, because it was very good to drive, very, very fast. It's four-wheel drive, obviously, because it's a Jeep, and because you've got 707 horsepower, as much as it does weigh, you know, 4,600 pounds, it really doesn't feel like that. It just shoots off. You know what I was talking about in the i8 with sort of the straight line bits? Yeah, this thing really copes with them very, very well. Now, as it sort of gets up to, as the straights get longer, I can imagine the top speed really starts dropping off. I can't imagine this car has a particularly high top end because it has the aerodynamic properties of a barn, but you know, there's no real straight that long on this track. You know, you're not going to benefit if you get your Veyrons and McLaren F1s too much, because there really isn't that big of a straight down here. It is a little bit uncontrollable. It sort of has a little bit of a mind of its own, quite frankly, but you know, you can control it. It can get up here, and trust me, once you can get everything right in this vehicle, once you sort of learn the bouncy suspension and the steering that's a little bit vague, it's a fantastic car for this course. Really is truly something, as I said, that does feel like it was genuinely made to tackle this course. Next up, another car that should be pretty good at tackling this course is this, the 2016 Aerial Nomad. 256 horsepower, 221 foot-pound torque, 1,477 pounds of weight. This is the lightest car here today. It is A-Class 749, and that's its PI stock because it does come with the snow tyres equipped as standard. The Nomad. This was, I believe, the second car from Ariel, the first one obviously being the Atom, which became a massive track monster. They decided to wanted to make something that was a little bit more recreational, I guess. You know, you could sort of use it for barreling through forests and whatnot and have a little bit of fun. It's, yeah, a pretty oversized buggy, I guess is the best way to describe the Nomad. I can't quite remember what engine's in this. It's obviously not quite Atom levels of silly yet. They'll probably put a V8 in it at some point because Ariel. But yeah, as it stands, this is the standard version with just 236 horsepower. However, it's rear-engined rear-wheel drive, not four-wheel drive. Now, of course, we've seen, you know, some of the buggies in the past have done well without it. I can't remember the name of it. I think the Quola is the name of it, the B-class one. That one's pretty good. This one, though, this one isn't pretty good. It is, to sound diplomatic as possible, it's complete garbage. It really is a horrible, hateful car to drive, this one. The steering is taken as a suggestion. You know how I said in the Jeep Trialcat you don't have that much control over it? This thing you really don't. Like, you can actually turn the wheel a fully left and the car will sort of continue straight on and then start to veer left a little bit. It's uncontrollable. The traction's a bit crap because obviously rear-engined rear drive means all the rate's over the rear. As much as there's not much of the weight, I can imagine the weight distribution on this is pretty horrific. It's just not good. It's really not good. It's not particularly quick. It's just terrible, to be honest with you. It really is not something good. I can imagine in the base game it's okay for some of the sort of muddier, dustier trails, sort of the less extreme ones, but for something like this you really do need a better piece of kit because the Ariel Nomad just isn't good enough to take on this course, basically. Next up though, we have a car which probably in theory should be equally as terrible at taking on this course. This is the 2017 Racemo, 188 horsepower, 155 foot-pound torque, 2,293 pounds of weight. This is an A-class car. 722 is the PI when it is equipped with the snow tyres. Stock, it is a C-class car. Of course, tyres here in Forza Horizon 3 gobble PI up like there's no tomorrow. Which does mean, you know, some of these cars are a little bit imbalanced when it comes to their PI. You know, if you see a 722, you might be like, oh wow, that's a really good PI number. Yeah, but the car, you know, the tyres are adding on 200, 300 PI sometimes. Sometimes even more than that. So yeah, the PI number is... obviously, you know, it's helpful to tell you what the PI of the car is when it's equipped with the snow tyres. But you do have to bear in mind, these cars gain PI ridiculously when they're equipped with any form of tyres. So, in the case of the Racemo, it does gobble up the PI. As far as the Racemo goes, I don't really like the way it looks. I like the idea of it though. I believe it's a 3-cylinder sports car built in India with the help of Microsoft. I can't remember if this project's still going ahead. It might have been cancelled. It got slightly redesigned for Forza 7, has a different interior mode in this game. This is where it originally came in as a bit of free DLC. And to be honest with you, when it's actually driving up here, it kind of looks like a cross between a BMW i8 and a rally fighter in my mind. It does kind of look like a squat down rally fighter. As far as it goes to drive, it's okay. You know, it's mid-engine rear drive, it's not four-wheel drive. It's designed to be as light as possible, I believe. This is sort of meant to go after your Lotus Elises. And so on and so forth. So, being that light means it doesn't really get bogged down too much. It doesn't have enough power to really get bogged down. And despite being mid-engine rear drive, yeah, decent enough traction. Bit slow, obviously. You know, 188 horsepower, 2,200 pounds. 0 to 60, I don't quite know, but I'm assuming it's in like the 5-6 second realm. So it's not massively quick, at least in terms of this game. Obviously, real life's a different story. But yeah, it's still good though. I can't complain. There are definitely cars I'd rather bring up here, but you know, maybe with a few modifications or something, it could be a rather good vehicle. And finally today, we have to end with something even slower than the Racemo. We end with the 1971 Chevrolet Vega GT, 110 horsepower, 138 foot-pound torque, 2,230 pounds of weight. This is the least powerful car here today, the least torquey car here today, and the lowest in PI. It is C584 when equipped with the snow tyres, and you know what I was talking about PI. putting sort of vehicles massively up in terms of PI. Yeah, this suffers from it quite badly. This stock is, I think D class is the lowest class in this game. It's like 220 PI, somewhere around there. Yeah, it gained PI ridiculously, the Vega, so do bear in mind this is one of the slower cars we've had to take on the course. I do quite like the Vega though. It was an interesting addition when it came in a DLC pack to this game specifically. It sort of seems more like a Motorsport 7 car, where you've sort of got smaller, tighter tracks, you know, you've got your Catalunya Skull circuit and stuff like that, where this car could probably be more useful instead of the wide open world of Australia. But nevertheless, we did get the Vega, a Chevrolet compact car, replaced the, can't remember the name of it, the rear-engined one, the Monza, I think that was it. Yeah, replaced that. It had a traditional front-engined layout. I can't remember if this thing's front-engine or rear-wheel drive. I believe it's rear-wheel drive. I don't know for certain though. There was a quicker version of this car called the Cosworth though, I know that much. Which makes it a bit strange that they added the GT and not the Cosworth. I know a few people complained about that. I think the Cosworth was like 170 horsepower or something. As you can probably tell, I don't know an awful lot about the Vega, but I know a little bit. As far as it goes to drive, well, I know a fair bit about that because, well, I drove it up here. How else do you think it's up here? It's slow. It's fine, you know, it's just slow. We've spoke about this before several times on this show. Cars that aren't bad to drive, because realistically they don't really go quick enough to have any issues with this course. You know, we've seen it with the Mazda Cosmo, what else has been slow? Opel GTs, Cadets, that's sort of the ballpark this car's going to be going for in terms of time, and it is very similar to those cars. A little bit on the heavier side because it's American, but it does have a little bit more power. It can rotate if you're not careful, I will say that much for it. So, yeah, actually that would make it rear-wheel drive. If you sort of turn this in, you can actually get it to rotate and spin out, which is interesting. Spinning out a 110 horsepower car was not a high point in my life, gotta be honest, but I did manage to do it, and you will manage to do it if you're not careful. Anyways, as we move onto the leaderboards, we find, holy crap, in 14th place, the Jeep Trailcat with 202.489. That is insanely quick. That car is S1817Pi, and it's up there with S2 class cars. It's in between an Audi R8 and an Alfa Romeo 155 Q4. Beats out a Metro 6 R4. That thing is stupidly fast. In 46th place, we find the BMW i8 with a 207.861. Goes in between a Koenigsegg Agera and a Ferrari 458 Italia. Do bear in mind, of course, those cars are both mid-engined rear-wheel drive, but it doesn't do too bad. A little bit off the Bentley Bentayga, which is the nearest four-wheel drive car I can see, but not a bad time nonetheless. The Aerial Nomad does way better than I was expecting it to. Goes in 79th place with 211.866. Loses out slightly to the Alfa Romeo 8C. It is quicker than a Range Rover Supercharged, but trust me, take the Range Rover over the Aerial Nomad because it's not very good. It really is not very good at all. In 179th place, we find the Tamo Racemo with a 223.377. Goes in between a Vauxhall Corsa VXR and a Dodge Charger Daytona. It's around where we start seeing most of the muscle cars, sort of the quicker muscle cars anyway. Yeah, Racemo didn't do too bad at all, considering it's sort of not exactly built for this course. And finally today, in 242nd place, we find the Chevrolet Vega GT with 243.197. Goes in between the Fiat Supersonic and the Volvo 1800E. About where you'd expect it to go. It's a couple of seconds off of the Cadet and the Cosmo. Yeah, not a particularly great time, but the Vega was never going to set the world on fire, so not a bad time considering. And overall, yeah, pretty good times all around, especially from the Trialcat. I was really not expecting it to be quite that quick, but it's insane, that thing. Anyways, I want to thank you all very much for watching this edition of Reach the Peak. Next week, join me, there's 5 more cars to take on the hill climb course. So, thank you all very much for watching, and until next time, farewell.